Emergency podcast, nailing the apex on the road. Tim Rainey joining us from Vegas. I am joining you from San Jose, California. So we're in the same hemisphere for different reasons. We're calling it Shark Week on SDPN because we're here covering the Sharks.
Hold on a second here. When do you guys do your stuff with the Sharks? Have you done it already?
Yeah, we got some stuff up already and more interviews coming, and it's been great. We talked to some of the young stars. We talked to one of their legends, Dan Boyle, today. It's going to be great. It's been amazing. We can talk a little bit about it more, but I know that everybody's here for the Yuki Tsunoda breakdown, and the Liam Lawson breakdown, and the Red Bull breakdown, and the breakdown of performance at Red Bull. Now, if you've missed it, we've been sort of waiting for Red Bull to actually officially announce this. Liam Lawson has been swapped back into a Racing Bulls car. Yuki Tsunoda, for his home Grand Prix, will join the big team, Red Bull, at Suzuka. Now, this is a track that is extremely unforgiving. The heat and humidity can be a factor, too, for the driver. And Yuki is going to jump into a car, Tim, that is just not good and will punish you for any mistake. And he's jumping in cold. There is a lot of criticism out there for a whole bunch of things, and we can talk about that. Again, it's going to be a short show. But just starting with Yuki, let's talk about the challenges he's going to face going into Suzuka and doing this race. What is he signing himself up for here?
Ooh, Adam. Buddy, he's signing himself up for a lot, let me tell you. Like, it's going to be hard. There's no question about it. I mean, I think one of the big things for Yuki is the fact that he's getting this opportunity, one, which is great. Now, should he have gotten it sooner? Yes, he probably should have been. He should have been in the car, RB21, for testing in Bahrain. But here we are, and he's getting a shot. Now, we're not too sure the specifics. Maybe, how involved was Honda in getting this deal sort of over the line, or getting him crossed over from RB to Red Bull Racing. There are some numbers that are flying around out there that Honda did pay a little bit extra to get Yuki into the seat for Japan. But Adam, one of the big things that he's there for is he's there for his experience and technical knowledge. That's something that Liam still needs to learn and expand upon. It's not he's not fully there on that side of things just yet. And I think for Christian Horner, he just didn't want to. He didn't want, and same for Helmut Marko, I don't think they really wanted to keep punishing Liam in a car that they felt they knew he wasn't going to be able to get the best out of. I think they saw that in China on Saturday. I think after qualifying, I should say. And I think that's where the decision really did come into play. I found out about it at whatever it was, right after the race at 4:30 in the morning Eastern time. It is a weird circumstance. Like I'd said, I think Yuki should have gotten the seat right off the bat, because you should be going for your more experienced drivers when or understand that you're going to have a difficult car, right? And Adam, this is like Max Verstappen's been the one who's papered over this car's flaws. I did say at the beginning of the season I didn't think this car was the greatest. And then after Australia, I did say this car is not very good. And so with Yuki coming over, giving them a hand, that should speed things up. But I think one of the bigger narratives or stories, Adam, is the fact that, what happens if Yuki really struggles here?
Yes, exactly. Now, listen, it's a great story if he's successful. It's a fantastic story, and that's why Formula One's so great. But if he's not successful, this is the first time that I can remember Red Bull management truly being under fire. And what I mean by that is you look at the succession of drivers that have gone since Ricciardo left for Renault. And you've got Gasly, you've got Albon, you've got Sergio Perez. All three of those guys are legitimate Formula One drivers. Are they world champions? None of them are, not yet. I mean, I'm sorry. Perez did win a world championship with the team, but obviously not world drivers championships. But they are team leaders. Albon and Gasly are their own team leaders, and they might be mid-pack teams, but there's only a few of those jobs available, Tim. It ain't that many. Yep. So you've allowed those drivers to leave. In fact, you punted them in pretty mean fashion, right? There's no other way. We call Red Bull brutal. It's mean. And then, you look over at the Racing Bull squad at the end of last season. You're going to move on for Perez. You decided not to go with Ricciardo. Yeah, I think it did end up costing them points. I really, really do. I think Ricciardo would have been better in that car. Okay, so Danny retires. Sergio's out. And, the next one up should have been Yuki Tsunoda. And you could have had 2 or 3 months of preparation with Yuki where he's giving you technical feedback, which you would lack from a guy with 9 race starts, which is what Liam Lawson entered the season with, right? They were also in on Franco Colapinto. He's only got 9 race starts. Like, at a certain point, and Zach Brown said it, and I know he was trying to needle Christian a little bit because I don't think there's any love lost there. Yuki Tsunoda was the guy. He was to everybody else on the outside looking in, Yuki Tsunoda was the obvious choice here. And now 2 races in, he's going to jump into a car cold and try to perform. And then I think my next question, Tim, is what happens if he doesn't? Like, it's great if he does, but what happens? That's their bullet. They've spent their bullet already. What do they do next?
I mean, I think it's going to be something where they're going to have to ride it out. Like, that there's no other option that is out there, Adam. I mean, we could bring up the argument that why didn't they go after Carlos Sainz when he was available on the market last season? You knew you weren't going to be holding on to Sergio Perez. You probably could have made an aggressive pitch to get Carlos, even interested him and pulled him away from a Williams contract at the same time. So it's a tough one because, for Franco Colapinto, like you mentioned his name there, it's like, well, if Yuki struggles, it's going to be extremely hard to just go and get Franco Colapinto. Like, Alpine has part of his contract. We don't understand how much Williams is involved as well, because I believe that Williams still has a piece of Colapinto's contract as well. And could they call him back at any moment? I mean, there could be something written in there that they could if Alpine's not using him. So how are you going to just go and do that when you're having to battle 2 other teams for one driver who's already promised to, 2 separate teams? Like, I don't think that's an avenue. I don't think that that's something that could explore. I mean, anything is possible, obviously. But if Yuki Tsunoda struggles and this thing doesn't go the way they want it to, and he's not able to bring the expertise in helping them right the ship with this car, then you got to ride it out with him. I don't see any other way. Like, you can't bring Isaac Hajar and put him into this car. Like, that. No. Hajar's having a nice little start to the season. The RB is a good car to build the driver's confidence. It has good drivability. I think Liam Lawson going there is going to be a good move for him. I'll be interested to see where he qualifies, like in 2 to 3 races time, if he's out qualifying, Yuki or Max or whatever. Probably not Max, but that car actually seems more drivable than obviously the RB21. But if I'm a team principal or an owner, I'm not pulling Hajar out of there to bring him over here and, crush his confidence. Like, why would you do that? I would never do that. Liam Lawson getting his confidence built back up by going back to RB is good. I'm glad. I'm happy for Liam that he's getting to stay in Formula One. He deserves it. I'm happy to see that he is going to a team where they really like him. And I think he can bring a lot to the table once he sort of starts to build himself back up again. But Adam, if this thing goes south, like, I don't know what else Red Bull's got what other kind of cards they've got to play.
I don't know either, Tim. And that's the thing, right? Let's talk about the fact that, we mentioned Albon, we mentioned Gasly, we mentioned Perez. Every single time the driver's taken the blame here. But I think for the first time, we're starting to see management take the blame. I think part of that is building on what happened at the beginning of last season when things were a mess. The Christian Horner scandal was raging. There was apparently a division between the Austrian helmet Marco side, the Mateschitz side, and then the Thai side of Red Bull, which Christian is a part of, and how, there's a whole bunch of corporate politics playing into this. And, the butterfly effect of that is you lose Wheatley. You lose, Adrian,
he's
the greatest. Adrian Newey. Why couldn't I pull that name out of thin air? You're losing. You have a group of talented individuals that have been with you forever just going, yeah, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. And whether or not Helmut Marko and Christian Horner get along, it's clear that they're not totally on the same page. And at a certain point, you have to start to examine decisions that management are making and going, like, if this doesn't work with Yuki, it ain't Yuki's fault. And I think everybody's going to know that.
And also, don't forget Rob Marshall as well, the year before that.
Oh, right.
Who went over to McLaren, and Rob Marshall playing a really big part in McLaren's success now. I digress.
Yeah.
When you look at how quickly Red Bull churns through drivers, and then we take a look at where some of those drivers have ended up, naming Pierre Gasly and then also Alex Albon. I mean, Gasly Grand Prix winner. Albon's been very successful at Williams. Clearly, both are extremely talented. Both are extremely fast. And both are coveted on the grid. Any other team, a lot of teams would take both of those drivers and put them in their cars and sign them to deals. And so then you have to kind of take a look at the bigger picture of this, being like, okay, hold on a second. Like, you moved these drivers up from your junior teams. You put them in beside Max. Car was difficult to drive. Max has a unique driving style, and they couldn't come and meet him halfway at that. So that kind of has to tell you something right there, where maybe behind the scenes, you need to start taking a look at, okay, when we go to build this car, yes, we do need to put parts of the car that benefits Max, but we also need to build parts of the car that offer a driver a bit of confidence. And instead of taking that away, we need to encourage it so we don't have drivers sort of lose their confidence and sort of flame out, but then go to another team, regain that confidence, and look pretty good. And so when you're looking at this landscape that sort of started to grow, I would date this all the way back to 2023 Spain. Sergio Perez, the Red Bull team, introduced some new components to the car. And then Sergio, his confidence start to dwindle, go down. He has a couple peaks, but mostly valleys. And then the year after that, 2024, it was just a disaster. You know that you've gone somewhere wrong with the car. And I think behind the scenes, Max has told them that. Max has told them that, like, you guys need to start building XYZ. We need to start doing XYZ a little bit better. And a lot of this is already out in the Dutch media, Adam, where it's just, it sounds like Max is extremely frustrated with the things that are going on behind the scenes. And it sounds like they're just not even listening to him by the things that I've read and a few of the people I've spoken to. Now, whether or not Yuki can come in and really lend a hand remains to be seen. Japan's going to be, I wouldn't judge Yuki on anything in Japan. Tough track, first time in the car, difficult car to drive. I don't know, when we get about 4 races in and Yuki starts to get a little more comfortable, then maybe we can start, picking the pieces apart a bit. But until we get to that point, I mean, it's like I said, Red Bull's played all their cards, man. Like, I don't think they have any other cards that they can play. The key has to be getting this car back to where it has a good drivability factor, good operating window where both drivers can be successful.
Right. Well, I mean, we'll see what they do here. Like I said, the Yuki Tsunoda story could be spectacular. If he's successful here, this would be great. If he's not successful, again, I don't think he's thankfully for him, it's a no-lose position, I think, because everybody knows he's a very good driver. He's matured very well from when he entered. He's out-dueled teammate after teammate. If he jumps into this car and he underperforms, no one's going to look at Yuki Tsunoda and go, yeah, he's the problem. Liam Lawson. There's a guy that had 9 race starts, like I said, going into this season. He's going to go back to Racing Bulls. This car builds a little bit of confidence. It is a good competitive car this year. What do you expect out of him in the first couple of races, jumping in cold to that car? What's reasonable?
I think just getting his confidence back, getting his feet underneath him. It kind of really does look like that RB21 really, took a lot from him. I mean, it was very disappointing to see what happened to him in China. now moving over to Japan and a car that inspires a little bit more drivability, can help with your confidence. I mean, that's something I could see a driver bouncing back from in a couple races time when they have a car like that. I mean, my question is Adam, like, what happens if, Hajar and Lawson are out qualifying Tsunoda, like in the RB?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does Red Bull do? Like, do you just go and well, you can't just take their car, but I mean, there are certain things they share knowledge on, but at the end of the day, you got to build your own car. Like, so,
Yeah.
I mean, what do? And for the team, they want to win the constructors championship. They are within striking distance. It hasn't gotten away from them, and Max wants to win the driver's title, and he's right there to do it as well. So this is a big year, Adam. This is a huge year for Red Bull. It's a huge year for Max Verstappen because he could become a 5-time Formula One world champion. But if they start going in another direction and things just keep either spiraling out of control or falling apart, what does Max do? That would be my question, is what does he do, like, as a driver? Like, so I'm curious to see sort of how all this sort of plays out over the next few months.
As are we all. Well, Tim Harady, there's one more piece of news we want to hit on. And by the way, next week we'll have a quick little show on Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll get back to our race week schedule Thursday. And then obviously, post qualifying and then Monday as well. Tim, I want to talk about Valtteri Bottas testing for McLaren.
Yeah.
Why?
So I spoke with some of the folks at McLaren and Mercedes today. So he is out there doing a test of previous car. I believe it's the MCL 60. So it's the 2023 car. He was testing in Barcelona today, getting familiarized with McLaren, the way they work, their car, and all that stuff. And obviously McLaren runs Mercedes engines, being part of that Mercedes pool, which Valtteri is a part of. I think some of the other teams that do run Mercedes power units, if they ever require a reserve driver, could go and ask Valtteri to step in and fill in. So McLaren out there letting Valtteri have a taste of the car and everything. But I think also, Adam, at the same time, I mean, when we talk about Cadillac, if Valtteri's out there getting some experience in not only in the Mercedes car, also the McLaren car is coming from Sauber. This guy is going to be like a wealth of knowledge and information. And if you're Cadillac, you should be going down there, knocking on his door and see what he's doing next year.
Yeah, no kidding. And we can always root for Valtteri Bottas. He's just the best. So that's great. And it's nice to see him back at Mercedes and getting some opportunities too. It's of all the reserve driver positions, it does seem like Toto does go above and beyond for even his reserve drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. It's good for Valtteri to keep his keep himself in the game, keep himself fresh, keep himself having the feeling of a Formula One car, because the longer you sort of move away from it, the harder it kind of is to sort of come back and be competitive. So I think, again, it bodes well for Valtteri, and potentially, if his management is talking to Cadillac, potentially coming back to the grid next year. I mean, which would be fantastic for him.
It'd be great.
Yeah, I would love to see that. That'd be great. Yeah, 100%.
Sure makes a lot of sense, man. Sure makes a lot of sense. It'll be kind of cool to see him in an orange racing suit too. So Tim, enjoy your time in Vegas, and I will see you next week, my friend.
See you, buddy.